maybe we could start introductions anyway. So let's start with it's Dave, right?
Yep. I'm Dave Winchell. I'm the District 2 Road Commissioner. I oversee the roads that abut that bridge, and I guess we're looking into getting interested in see what we can do to fix it. So I guess that's why we're all here.
George Zerbick. I live on VZ Point, and I'm just interested in the bridge and being a close neighbor to it.
Dave Lang, Road Committee member, second term, also captain on the fire department, here representing the fire department for the chief. Our concerns with the weight limit and our mutual aid agreement with Wakefield, and concern for the properties and our tax base over there.
Should we start that?
It's going. Okay. So, I mean, that's a big concern, you know, for both towns.
Right, it is.
Jack Kelly, I'm on the Acton Road Committee, and I live down on 13th Street on Nelson Lake. And more or less here, we got involved in it to get things going and to get a standing committee together for the Acton, Acton College.
I'm Dave Cody. I'm actually a 7th and 8th grade science teacher at the Acton School. I live in Acton, right down the road, and we got an email from Mary down at the school about any interest potentially in, some of the historic value of preserving some of that down at the canal. And I'm an Acton native, so I emailed back. So that's why I'm here.
Great.
It's Cindy Hart, and we had done research on the bridge years ago. I'm on the road committee, and had looked at it, and then my friend Nancy Roma mentioned that she had seen Pam, and that Wakefield was interested, so that's how it started, and whatever the road committee can do. I know one thing we will plan to do is a traffic study and get a count for you on the road, which should help as it goes along, and we can coincide that with our RSMS program that we start this spring. We'll get an extra counter, and we'll have that for you.
I'm Mary Waterhouse, I'm the director of the Acton Public Library. And I also like to write and find grants. So this, I've done private, but I'd like to look into federal as well and get that experience. So I'm interested in moving on this.
Great.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We're just doing introductions, Linda. I'm Judy Judge, and I chair the Wakefield Heritage Commission. I've been on the commission since 1993 when it was first formed, and very interested in the canal and the bridge and appropriate preservation efforts.
I'm Teresa Williams, the town administrator for Wakefield, and I've been in that position for about 1.5 years, but I was town clerk for 23 years before that, and I've always heard of the interest of the bridge and the issues with it, and I travel that road, to get over this way quite often, so it's an interest to me to make sure that we keep the Wakefield Board of Selectmen abreast of what's happening and the progress that's going on. So.
I'm Peter Brown. I'm also on the Wakefield Heritage Commission. I'm the vice chairman. I've been on it since 1993 with a little vacation for a couple of years in the middle. I'm also the great grandson of the guy who built it, so I've got a personal family interest in it as well.
I'm Tom Gore. I'm an ex-selectman for one, and I guess Cindy asked me to join the committee, presumably for political reasons and because I am rumored to be a consulting structural engineer. So I'm rumored. I deny it until I know how much people are paying me.
Jeez.
I'm Jerry O'Connor from Wakefield, and I've been trying to use the bridge. I've done some work with George on VZ Point, VZ Cove Road, and that bridge does, I think, like Dave mentioned, that's a pretty critical link between quite a bit of property we have in Wakefield and the rest of the town. Like I mentioned earlier, I've tried to use that bridge in my business, and I've tried to go in and discuss it with the selectmen since, I think, 2004 or 2005. Recently, Pam mentioned that she was working with this committee and trying to figure a way to preserve the canal, which is, I think the canal is pristine, and I think the canal is wonderful. I mean, the bridge is part of it, as Pam and I have discussed back and forth a few times. But I mean, I'd like to see a way to preserve the canal and preserve the bridge and keep the bridge incorporated in the canal, being as part of the integral system of power, because George had explained to me a few years ago about how that all regulated the power all downstream from there. So I mean, I think it's important, but I think it'd be good to try and figure a way to make it practical to use it to, a certain weight. I mean, maybe not 80,000 pounds, but maybe 50,000, or enough to get fire engines and emergency equipment across comfortably. But I came over to see what was going on, and like I say, hopefully try and work out with everybody else and try and figure a way to make it, practical side and the historic side work well together, and preserve it and try and make it practical for everybody who still uses it.
I'm Wes Ham, I'm on the Conservation Committee in Acton. Don't really know what the chain of telephone call was, but somebody has to show up.
I'm Bill Lonnie, and I'm on the Conservation Committee also. I think I'm the one that's guilty of calling us.
And we missed.
Oh, I'm Linda Shire. I'm Executive Director of the Acton Wakefield Watersheds Alliance. I also live on VZ Point, so I drive that road all the time. We've been marveling at that canal ever since we started coming here in 1980, and it's a really special place, but obviously we also need to figure out how the fire department can come put out my house fire, if need be, without having to go the 12 miles around the other way. So just here to see what's what, and my main focus is water quality, so I'm hoping that whatever we do will have a component about trying to keep the stormwater from washing the banks away and doing it all right.
Okay, thank you, everyone. As your agenda goes, what we thought we should do, because we have so many new faces, this started as a few people chatting, and it just gets a little larger, which is great because we need the input from various sectors of the community. That we might do an update on the more recent history from the various towns as to what has occurred there. So I don't know who wants to chime in about anything. I know you've had some letters from the state, or does anyone want to tell us what anything that's more recent on the main side? We have a little information that we can bring up. Yes, you are. Pardon me.
I think on the main side, the only thing we have to offer is everybody sitting here. That we've made contact with various boards, and we want to move forward and hope that this is a good start.
We also have some, you don't know this because I just got this upstairs, but probably what you were just going to refer to, the March 8th and New Hampshire DOT report on the bridge.
Is that what we're doing, discuss?
Yeah, so we just say that we just got to make.
Which we have noticed several errors. Did you have a chance to read it?
I just was quickly scanning it, and Peter was scanning it over my phone.
So you received, so that was sent to, it was the New Hampshire one, and you received a copy as well?
Yeah, this is addressed to the town officials, of course, in Acton.
All right.
They just passed it to me.
Okay, so that was one of the things that we would bring up. I'm glad that you received that as well. What we noticed, I just got a copy today. Teresa sent it over, and I didn't have much of a chance to read it. This isn't the one. This is the one.
What was the DOT report?
Bridge inspection report, dated 2/3/12. Date of inspection 12/05/11. And so what we noticed on this is they've got the type of construction inaccurate, and they have the date inaccurate. So I'm going to go with that one.
Date of construction.
Yes, that it's a concrete bridge, masonry arch, and that it was built in 1920. So there's nothing here that relates to
There
that.
may be a concrete deck over it, you probably know how.
There is a,
Don't lose half of it.
but that wasn't done in 1920 either.
That was done certainly in my lifetime, not not quite back to 1920 yet.
I'm sure it was later.
Yeah.
Anything else from the roads? From your viewpoint, as the main road commissioner, Acton Road Commissioner?
We had met up there about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'm not sure. It was the administrator before you were on, but did you meet up with us about a year?
I met with you.
No, it must have been wrong.
It was, I believe,
I met with you and Nancy Ruma and a group of people when we were looking at the wash that's coming out of the VZ Point Road, or the road right across the street, sort of runs right across and down over the edge and is kind of washing away that south side of the bridge there.
I think that was probably talking about the road commission before me.
Okay.
Yeah, because we met up there with the administrator, a couple of selectmen from Acton, and I'm not sure a couple of people showed up, and we'd gone over, because they were talking about sharing some costs of doing some repairs just to prolong, just to keep it from washing out more than it already is. And, you know, we had come up with some ideas, and at that point in time, there was change of the guard up here and this and that, so things kind of got pushed aside. But I had given them some ideas of just to stop the erosion, this and that, but we haven't gone any further since then.
okay. Anybody else on the main side, on Acton, want to get anything in the minutes? Because it's basically we're trying to compile the information.
There was, I served for a while as a FEMA director in town, and I think the meeting you probably referred to was with Bernie Yetton when he was up there. That water had caused erosion and collapse on the south side, the main side, and Bernie at that point in time rebuilt it, and I think they poured some concrete in that corner, but...
No, what they had done is they had, I think they sawed out some of the hot top and they put down some fiber mesh.
Yeah.
And then they patched over, which is eroded away at this point.
They rebuilt the stone too, abutment, but they built all the brown stuff. So
yeah, and my suggestion was to put some hot top curb in from the bridge muffin itself out to the side so the water couldn't go over the bridge itself, because there's spots there for the water to go, because there's a dip there. So the water sits there, and that's why it erodes there. And pave it and shim it up to get the water so it stays off the bridge. And that was my suggestion at the time. It was a pretty inexpensive, it was a bandage for that point in time until the bridge could be done, whatever. But that was just a suggestion, and it kind of went there, wherever.
And a really minor thing is that our Youth Conservation Corps dug a trench directing the water off of Robinson Road and back towards an infiltration spot. So it hasn't stopped it, but it's slowed it down a lot.
It doesn't collect all the runoff there, especially when it's plowed in the wintertime and its trench is filled in with snow.
Yep.
The water runs directly out the mouth of the road onto the bridge and through the pavement and across the road.
Same old problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works in summertime storms some, but not all.
Okay. Anything else on Acton? Wakefield. A few things that, since I've been interested in this, or more recent interest in this, what the Wakefield Heritage Commission wants to do is write a grant that will put the canal and the bridge on the National Register. It will allow us, we think, access to other funding and certainly bring a lot of recognition to what's happening there. I spoke with Peter Michaud in Concord. He is in charge of National Register nominations. He's also, well, that's what he would be involved in at this point. And he said that because it's interstate and because the road is owned by 2 towns, that he would contact his counterpart in Maine, because we have to have everyone's approval to even consider this before I write the grant application, which is due very soon. And so he's working on it for the person that's York County or Southern Maine. Then he would be in touch with the 2 towns to see if they're in agreement, and the state, because New Hampshire and Maine both own land on either side. So to get that accomplished is a little more cumbersome than it might be. By having it on the National Register, all it means is it's important to preserve. It doesn't really prevent us from doing anything other than fixing it in a way that would preserve it. And we have to do that anyway, because in 2000 and when that FEMA study was done, they determined Richard Casella was hired to do that, to study all the stone and granite culverts and bridges in New Hampshire. And that report determined that the bridge was National Register eligible, so that invokes a Section 108 review every time something is done, if there's any state or federal funding involved. So unless the towns were going to fund it totally on their own, the Section 108 review comes in, which means it's a historic site. So we felt that it would be important to get we need it on the National Register. We'd ultimately like to have an easement over the property, at least on the New Hampshire side, where we could have a pathway and interpretive signage, and let people know the importance of that, because it is the beginning of the headwaters in Salmon Falls, and really, Linda can speak a lot to this. A lot of the growth that happened downriver, the mills and Somersworth and Berwick and the towns all the way down to Portsmouth grew because of the control of that dam. That's where we're at today as far as National Register status or even writing a nomination. We aren't at the point to do it. We would need to know that both towns are agreeable, and they're not at a point now to even get that together, because we have to, the state of Maine's counterpart from our Division of Historical Resources has to determine that they think it's eligible. So he's been working on this for about a week and a half with me. I don't know how you feel about that. That's a discussion that we should have. I have a letter here, well, even before that, because we, let's see, last year, this was a grant that was written for the Heritage Commission, another grant, a CLG grant, which is, it was studied 18 industrial mill sites in the town of Wakefield. Now, one of them is the Canal and the mills that were there. This is a $20,000 grant that we received, and these archaeologists did this. They did an awesome job. It has brought the attention of that canal and the bridge to many other people in the state because of this. And it's looked at as we're the only town in the state of New Hampshire that has had this sort of archaeological survey done, where we've asked people the archaeologists to come in. Usually they come into a town, they told me, where they've been asked to come because of the Section 108 and they're there in an adversarial position. This has been the first time they've been, they have come in and been embraced by the community to do this work. So this is a plus. I think all that we do over there is raises awareness. We also we've got CDs that we sell. We've sold a lot of them. We actually had the canal and the bridge put on our town report, so with a little bit of the history inside. So that's bringing in more awareness. Peter, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the value of this study that we've had done is that has all of the spade work already done. So when we go to put it on the National Register, or when we go to do the research necessary to start making changes on it, most of that groundwork is all in that report, and it's all current, and it will be invaluable to us when we start this project.
Right. So that's the most recent. I did want to, some of you who've been participating in these meetings in the past probably have a copy of an email between the previous town administrator and myself. It was dated 6/9/09. You probably have it in the copies of things that we passed around. But Jim Garvin was our state historian, and he's just retired. But this was from the Cultural Resources Manager in the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, Joyce McKay, who some of you in New Hampshire may know. And it said, I talked to Jim Garvin on Tuesday night. He had seen the culvert a number of years ago and found that it, along with the canal, is to be very significant and appreciated the town's efforts to rehabilitate the structure in the least invasive manner. Jim thought that the stonework in the culvert overall was in good shape. He noted that there was a concrete extension at one end of the culvert. Water seems to penetrate the structure between the extension and the original structure. When this happens, the fill with its dirt fines are washed out and voids are created. He thinks, but needs to consider further, that an appropriate repair would be to open this area, cover the gaps with geotextile and fill it or them. Geotextile permits water to penetrate but not the fines, so that the void is not again created. I'll send Jim the material that I have so that he can expand on this explanation. Dave Powell's son from DOT generally agreed, saying they found voids under the pavement on several locations. They thought that the damage was a roadway issue more than an integrity of the stone arch issue. And this letter, this email that had gone back and forth between Robert and I just found it the other day, and I was going to contact Jim Garvin, who has retired, but he's still available, and have him expand his thoughts on that, because it might have some impact on what we're talking about. So, any thoughts about anything that we just said?
Well, I was going to break away and address the issue in Acton, responding to your determination if there's an interest in having, and I was going to question David, because you guys are more up on this than I am right now. Do we still have time to get an article on the warrant for the town meeting to see if the town is interested? And do you think that might be an appropriate way to go?
It's close.
I know it's close.
It's close.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We
got them upstairs right now.
We don't have very much time.
Interested
in seeking a designation for the...
I have to have the grant application in like 2 weeks.
So you need to know before.
If this is able to come together for this year, and if you agree with us that it's important, it has to, basically you just need, well, in Wakefield, all we need is a selectman to agree, not a town, it's just a designation of a historical artifact or a site. I don't know how your main
would be
state laws.
to decide whether
it would be of no expense to you, it would be of no work to you, because we would do it all. You would just have to show that you are in support.
But the advantage of these things is it builds a constituency.
That's exactly what we're hoping.
Right, that's the advantage. We can ask them.
And I think we've got 2 or 2 weeks, right? Right in that range. Yeah, the school budget hasn't been, worked through, and that's the first thing, so.
When's your town meeting?
June.
Yeah.
A little early.
What I would think is if Peter can pull this together with his counterpart in Maine, the next thing, because I asked him if I should go to Acton, he said, hold off, Pam, let me deal with first things first. And so I haven't heard back from him, but basically we do need to have the community's support, or we can't put it on the National Register, where we have done 30 sites in Wakefield. The owners of the site have to be in agreement, and in this instance, it's Acton and Wakefield as far as the bridge itself goes. And actually the canal is probably the 2 states, so we're starting with that.
It's pretty easy to talk to the selectmen right up there right now. You want me to go up? We corral them.
It wouldn't hurt to see how they feel about it, and ask them just if they would consider, don't give them the word of the article, but if they would consider placing an article on the warrant to seek the designation as a historic.
Okay. I'm going in.
How long can we expect?
send somebody.
The reason we have to apply for a grant for this is because there are, even though we have a lot of work done on it, it has to be done by appropriate people who are familiar with filling out these for the state, for the national. It has to go through the state. When the town hall was put on the National Register a few years ago, the cost to do that was $4,400. So the Heritage Commission, basically, we function as a volunteer commission. We have a small budget, but it isn't to do these other things that we do. It's basically to administer the rules and regs of the historic district and a few other things that we need to just do as volunteers. So we need the funding, and that's why we would want to write a grant. So there'd be no expense to anyone. We are a CLG community, so we can get the money from the Department of the Interior. And I would put, this was a grant. I've written 2 grants already that were funded. We get a lot of help from the state because I'm not a grant writer, but these are important resources, and we get a lot of help from the Division of Historical Resources in Concord.
So if you don't meet this deadline in 2 weeks, you gotta wait a year?
A year, yeah.
While we're waiting here, I do have an additional concern on this. I think I alluded to it last time we got together, but the condition of the canal is the stone is mostly there, but it's deteriorating very rapidly, and that has to do with the fines that you referred to there. And the whole canal has to be dealt with. Otherwise, there's going to be nothing left to save, because what's happened over the years is we've had leaves fall on top of those stones, those are rotted. That's the organic matter that's getting down into those stones, blocks the water out, and then we get frost in there. And you with me on this? Or you okay? I just want to make sure that this is a bigger project than just the bridge. There's not going to be any reason to save it if we don't save the canal. And we also have to cut the trees out of there too. So just so we're all on the same page.
In fact, this report talks about what has to be done and says that it is National Register eligible, and all the background work that a lot of it's been done on this other part of this other grant, so we won't have to apply for quite as much money. Although we want to go beyond just the bridge, we do want that whole area around the canal.
When you say cut the trees out, DEP is gonna have to be involved.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, the trees, what happens is the trees grow roots into the rocks and into all that organic matter that's in there, and then at some point in time, the trees die and the roots rot out, and it just leaves kind of channels for the water to flow through, and that just raises Cain with a road surface or a bed. It's like old stone foundations. I mean, they have to be maintained.
No, I get it, I'm just saying that it will require permits from those agencies as well.
The New Hampshire Bureau of Bridges there, they were doing the same thing. They were taking all the trees up, like down here on Hopper Road. They took those trees up the side of the abutment. They were doing the same thing.
The abutment on the
on the main side, yeah, they were doing the same thing, taking the trees out so the roots wouldn't get into the dam itself.
We also thought we would get some more information in the Nowishawanic News at their next meeting, because they may be a great resource for funding for us when we decide what direction we're headed in. Do you have anything else to add on the Wakefield side? Well, you might bring us up to date about the town actually is on the list to repair that and to get funding.
Oh, yeah, I have that. You want to know how much they thought it would cost to fix it? Yeah, I didn't actually go on the website to find out when we're scheduled to receive any aid, but you can go on and with New Hampshire DOT and put the bridge on there. It looks like Mark Duffy at the time was the chair when Robin was town administrator, and the full cost to repair it looks like $450,000. State bridge aid is 80%, town share is 20%, and what they require you to do is to raise the 20% first, and then they'll help with the 80%. But I haven't worked on this one, but I worked on another bridge in town, and we did the same thing when I first started, and then when I called for information, the state bridge aid is like 7 years out before you can actually get any funding. So even if you the town goes ahead and does say $90,000 to help, you're encumbering that funding for quite some time. And I don't know that state law allows us to do that for too long, so.
So what this could mean is the town of Wakefield would only need to come up with 20%, and we have state aid that would do 80%. And my understanding is that's not something that's available in Maine, right?
Not that I know of, no.
Because I saw a letter somewhere that said it's
Oh, I saw
definitely
that
a town-funded project.
That Maine doesn't offer that type of aid.
So we may
I don't
have,
believe there's anything available like that. What I had thought is that we would have to look for federal money. Unfortunately, earmarks are gone now. And our transportation bill is working its way through the House and Senate. And I feel that we should get our representatives and at least look in and see if there's money available in any of those that could apply here. We are an interstate bridge. This should help. You've got the state of New Hampshire between us. We'll have 4 representatives, 2 congresspeople each and 2 senators each. And if all of them will support us.
Two states should be used to, they're spending a lot of money in Portsmouth right now, so.
I know, this is crumbs compared to that bridge.
Well, I don't know if you looked into FEMA at all on this, but I know FEMA gives grants for projects similar to that. I mean, I know about road projects in Maine that they, grants, not just because of the storm, but over a period of time. And obviously, the damage that's being done to that bridge is, due to weather, the large amounts of rain that we've had in the last few years. It could be something we may be able to look into that.
Well, the trouble with those grants is if you'll excuse me, I'm familiar with those. You have to have a documented history of having repaired it a number of times. That's what I've been, after the selectmen to start that, and I think we're working on that. But we don't have that at this point in time. The one repair, significant repair that was done, there was no record keeping, right? It wasn't
so
much,
we should check and see if there's a record of repairs on the Wakefield side.
Yes, I would doubt there is, but in order to qualify for those FEMA grants, you have to be able to demonstrate that this is a recurring event that has required, significant repair.
And that report that Richard Casella did for Jim Garvin, it was a FEMA report, may help. Even though it's not, it may help what you're talking about, not necessarily showing, annual work on the bridge, but it was a FEMA report saying that this needed to be preserved.
Well, I know of a road in Sanford right now where they were doing the same thing. It wasn't washed away or anything, but it's so out of shape and it's, a main artery. And they haven't had the funds to completely overhaul this road that they've actually gone to, what I'm talking about, gone to FEMA there. It's quite a process, but it might be something to look into.
Now, that Danny Davison, his road crew there, he must have timesheets because after the Patriots did storms, they did a bunch of ditching in there, and they've done some culvert stuff up in there.
I think they got
There was some money from that from the storm, but he's, traveling that road myself, is the boys have done work every year. They're always doing something over there, especially after the last. If you're coming down the bridge, the last couple houses on the left, they've been new in the last 15, 20 years too. So that might be something, if we can show some kind of a timeline that your highway department's been doing, routine maintenance there. Because we were, the dirt road on top of the hill up there, that Coquismo, we used to go up to the old folks home up to the farm there.
Davis Hill?
Yeah, because we've had some. There was some controversy years ago with that deal with what the class rating was on that road, and I remember there being some talk over that, but there's runoff from there that all goes down there. But I know they've done a lot of ditching up through there and try to do some maintenance. So that might give us some kind of a timeline to help with that on your end.
So it would seem that we need to research in both towns to see what sort of funding is available.
Yeah, I have this letter that's from June of '08 to the town of Acton from the assistant bridge maintenance engineer. Did you get a copy of this from that file? Anyway, the last paragraph says, it's telling you that the bridge has issues and deficiencies. And then it says, due to the bridge legislation effective July 1st, 2001, there is no capital funding mechanism for this bridge, which is considered a minor stand on a town way. The municipality will continue to have maintenance responsibilities, and it will be re-inspected again in 2009. So it doesn't sound like Maine has any type of funding available for this kind of stuff.
So Cindy's idea of approaching federal may be the source for this side.
I know right now Milton has the same problem, except their bridge is not passable. And they literally blocked off both sides because there was no funding available there either. That would be the wooden bridge going into, I think. Yeah, wooden, I know, so.
And that's still blocked off.
Yeah, it's still blocked off.
And that's something that Lebanon's
Yeah.
and Skip said that at one of the chiefs meetings, that, you know, they're still the same thing. It's all in the end. State Maine does not have, you know, I mean, there's.
So,
They've cut
National
that.
Register, what did you,
It's past the due date. They made the due date a month earlier this year on getting these in, so they wouldn't have to deal with deposit ins. So we're out for this year on doing what you suggested. They also had mentioned while I was up there, huh?
We can still get a blessing from the select.
Right, but as far as putting it on the warrant. And they also mentioned that they envisioned on the main side, this committee really working off the road committee, as far as working through the road committee and not as a separate entity, so to speak, because they said that, you know, the road committee doesn't really have a lot to do right now, and it fits in where I don't know what that means exactly, but that was the exact quote. But you know, but seriously, as far as where we've had an established road committee for many years, they just saw this as a natural avenue for the road committee to also, not that other people couldn't be involved in, like I'm not on the road committee, you're not on the road committee, but that was what they said to me.
Did we form a subcommittee of the road committee?
No.
No.
I just spoke to selectmen about it, and I think the thoughts is that we have an elected road committee, and by doing a subcommittee, you're making another road committee, but during the during town meeting, you have to elect them. So it's kind of screwed up to be able to do that. We can have alternates, you know, we can have advisories such as Tom and Dave, but we already have the road committee established, and I think we ought to utilize that. And if Dave and Tom or whoever wants to be an advisory, you know, this is something big, and I think this is something, you know, if it doesn't happen this year, it's going to be a long process. It's not going to be something that happen this year. So with the road committee established like it is, we've got people that are going to be on, you know, 3-year terms or whatever, 2-year terms. You know, you're not going to rotate people. You know what I'm saying? So I would really prefer staying right with the road committee where we've got, and use the you know people like yourselves. You know, if you feel.
what we did in Wakefield is we went to a selectmen's meeting and asked them if it would be okay to see what we could do to help speed this process along and other ways of dealing with the canal and the bridge. And they said, fine, go ahead, Pam. And then we met, there were 3 or 4 of us, just talking about what to do, the possibilities of what to do, and how to get the 2 towns talking, because we have the same need.
I think we're on the same page. We're coming from different directions, because we started as a Heritage Commission, and we got in touch with AWA, which is a water quality group, and decided from the standpoint of the historical value of the bridge and from the standpoint of maintaining the water quality of the watershed that we've got, we need to do something about it. And at the same time, oh, by the way, the road needs to be fixed too. And you guys are dealing, well, gee, we've got this road problem that we got to take care of. But at the same time, really it would be nice to take care of and get the canal preserved and get the situation set up. So I think we're both working at it from the same goal, but starting from a little different point.
Oh, and I understand where you're coming from. I mean, my goal, I mean, I'm not a historian or anything, but, you know, I like to see the bridge stay the way it is. I don't want to see it, you know, fall out or whatever, but we got to get to the point where we can access access, use this as that's a main artery for
Yeah.
our emergency vehicles. And, you know, right now, we have plow trucks and, you know, plow trucks running back over that all the time. We can't monitor it. So you are having traffic travel over, and I've been down doing work, and all of a sudden see a tractor trailer roll through, and because there's no places for those guys to turn around when you get there, so,
They gotta go, yeah.
so eventually at some point, you know, you can't have someone sitting monitoring every day. So we have to move along, and we gotta get this process moving, because it's just gonna get
I
worse.
think in the first meeting that I went to, you as an engineer, and even though you don't admit to being an engineer as part of the time here, sort of pointed about that, you know, if you get the load bearing far enough out away from it, then you can leave the pretty part of it underneath it and still use that as a support and just get it so that.
I've heard of ideas of doing
The
that.
state is in favor of this, from this historic preservation, from conversations over the last several years. That's an area, spreading it beyond, that would be acceptable for preservationists as well. So we just need to,
Do we have a sense that the bridge is on stone? I mean,
It is on stone.
There is a ledge underneath the 2 inch wood.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Well, I mean, it's an archway.
I know, but
you know,
I assume that,
but
the Brooklyn
if
Bridge is
anyone
on that
wants
too.
more,
Anyway.
it's all, the detail of the construction of that bridge is in here.
But I'm glad you gave me an in. There is a lot of history in this bridge. There's also a lot of history in the transfer of water rights and the transfer of property rights.
It's 10, starting at 11.
From the town's tax maps, is that piece of property still owned by the state or by the town?
It's owned by the state.
It's owned by the state. When the state picked up that piece of property, the deed said that they would maintain the bridge. The grantor asked them to maintain the bridge.
We have to be here.
Right, you read the language. The grantee will maintain the bridge. Or maintain access, or maintain the right to access. How far you go with that, in terms of vehicle size, I don't know.
The grantor retains the right to pass and repass over roads to be maintained by the grantee.
To be maintained by the
And the
grantee.
grantor was the state of New Hampshire at that point, and it went
A
to the
division
state
of
of
the state of
Maine.
New Hampshire.
It was, right.
Which, and that has subsequently been turned over to the DEP. It was the water board.
Water Resources Board, right.
Because prior to that, it was PSNH.
Right.
Okay, so, and that language has stayed the same. So I'm just asking, is there a state of Maine component to this? Or do these bridges that lie on both sides, I mean, if the state of Maine's paying property taxes, or if they own it, then they own the footprint underneath it, you know?
Yeah, well, see, the problem with that one there is on the right-hand side, the state of Maine, I believe owns all that property on the
Right.
right-hand side. So, I mean, the town of Acton obviously owns the easement to the bridge. That was my question is, you know, where to what point does Acton
Absolutely.
become responsible?
Absolutely.
I've heard so many different, I mean, talking to other road agents in the area, in New Hampshire and this and that, and, you know, I've been told, well, you know, Maine takes care of the bridges, New Hampshire takes care of the dams. You know, I've heard so many different, I've heard the opposite. And then you turn it around, and then, of course, you look at that there, and that says, you know, pretty much just New Hampshire.
It's really interesting.
So,
A good part of the river is.
that's why,
too, so.
that's why we really gotta do the research on this and see what's going on.
It comments in that deed that the center of the waterway is the dividing line.
Yeah, and if that's the
Between the two
case.
states.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to figure that out as the Heritage Commission several years ago. Whose responsibility, you know, before we started talking with anyone here in Acton, I think I might have spoken with Nancy Rumor when she was selectman several years ago. But, you know, there was really, in my opinion, no good communication between the two towns, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Because I think we all have the same concerns of sorts. I might have more historical than maybe the road committee does. But as an example, we're doing we're have a tour the 28th of April, viewing 6 or 7 of these mill industrial sites. It's being done through the Archaeology Society of New Hampshire. We're going to use a school bus to take people to see these sites, and that school bus can't cross the bridge. So I've got to, and we're paying for the driver, and again, we're volunteers. We have to raise money for the driver and to pay for the fuel in the bus. And here we are in the same situation. We've got to figure out how to do it, and we can't cross the bridge. So we have to go to South Wakefield and around and then back.
Where did the current weight limit come from? How was that derived?
I think it was arbitrarily, but it's only hearsay, that it was arbitrarily pulled, and I think we have some.
Well, right there, on this bridge report, it says
3 tons.
It says, on the bridge report, it says recommended posting, weight limit 3 tons, plus private passenger vehicles only. And then it says west side.
I never got used to that language. That means police cars can't cross
Private
it.
passenger vehicles only.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my Wakefield school bus goes every day, twice a day anyway.
Well, and you know what, I was told school buses are exempt, but here we are representing our asset that we're concerned about, and can I say, okay, it's all right for us to cross this bridge in the school bus? You know, we can't, it's contradictory. It's not.
I'll try and shed some light on that. At the event that I was talking about, which that bridge abutment started to give way, this was probably around 2006. It was after a big rainstorm. That's when the two towns got together, asked for New Hampshire advice on it. New Hampshire said, you know, we can't analyze this, which is true. They didn't know what's in it, so here's the, and
that's the letter.
This says, you know, it was the right. Was. So it was principally an arbitrary decision because, you know, the bridge was in bad shape. The other aspect of this is to understand from an engineering point of view that the more frequently you put on a heavy weight, the more damage is being done because all the time that bridge is being overloaded, the damage is cumulative and it adds up and eventually it will collapse. You can put big dump trucks across that bridge now safely, okay? But don't try and do it 20 times a day and expect the bridge to last for 5 years, because it won't happen. You do it once a day for 20 years, you'll probably get away with it, you know? That's the scenario, I'm sorry.
You have a copy, I think, your packet.
Yeah. But the issue seems to be the abutments, rather than the strength of the bridge deck itself.
No,
it's only a 12-foot canal.
There are two aspects of it there, the bridge deck itself and the abutments.
They don't say
Problems
what's on
originally
ledger
in
now.
the road.
I know, that's my point. That's my point.
Because trapping in the storm.
I worked for a stonemason for many years.
It most likely is, but it doesn't, they didn't say that.
It's fascinating how the canal was built and where the ledge was at that time. And where the old mill sites were, no doubt was ledge, because the old timers would not build a mill where on mud.
I was going to say that.
Sometimes they did, they washed out. But they did have to divert water in order to build that, they couldn't hold that lake back. So that there had to be copper dams or whatever. There was an interesting history as to how that was built. I'm stuck on the wording of that deed that says the grantor will own. I'm also stuck on the wording of water rights with the DEP. And I know the little bit I've had with historic registry, they want clear ownership before if you don't have title to it, you're going to have a hard job getting, okay. So the ownership of that dam, or that bridge, the two sides of it, the footnotes and the whole business, has got to be clearly defined before it would.
Well, they don't care if the line is here or here. It's clear that it's the town of Acton and the town of.
But it isn't clear that it's the town of Acton. To me, it isn't clear that it's the town of Acton. I can't say, they've got the easement. Maybe they've got it by use under law, but there's no court case that's determined that. You see where I'm going? And as far as I'm concerned, the state of Maine, on quick view, still owns it, or at least this end of it. Maybe I'd want clarity on that. But I know that's raising that red area. That's been around a few times.
Yeah, but the point is well taken, is if you're gonna carry forward and do something with this, you know, the first thing you gotta do is make sure you know who owns it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the state, or the town, or the town of
The
Wakefield.
DEP has a, you know, I got flagged by this when I saw the canal on the DEP site all of a sudden. And that was back in the middle of the spring, and I said, what? Why would they be interested in the canal to that degree? Just because of the work you're doing? I don't know.
Where was it on the DEP?
It was on their header for about 3 months.
Oh, just a picture of it?
The picture of it was on the header of the DEP site for quite a while.
I didn't know.
The intriguing part of that, it was early in the spring, it was a minor bill under a New Hampshire statute that changed it from the New Hampshire Water Board to DEP.
Oh, wait, are you saying New Hampshire DES or Maine DEP?
I'm sorry, New Hampshire DES.
Oh,
Had it on the header.
oh,
Yes, they had it on the header. And,
Then yes.
And
for
if
that, I mentioned laughing with Richard Mass about the fact that this was transferred. And I wondered if anybody on the Maine side was notified that ownership was changed, you know, even though it was a subsidiary of the state of New Hampshire. So, you know, but coming from Acton, I have to ask the question about the footprint on your side. Is that on private land? Or is the road considered, that is a town road to that point?
Yes.
So chances are that for you're clear. We're not.
But we're only half of it, though.
But again, private property rights as specified by these old deeds hasn't changed. It's still there. And this was a transfer of ownership with the rider of a right.
So let's hold that for a second. Where do we stand as far as with the issue that was just raised, as far as us operating as, you know, I see us as a group of residents trying to come up with some ideas to pass along to the road committee or our selectmen or whatever, you know, but so we need to clarify what was just said before about what our role is or should we even exist.
Well, can I offer something? I don't see anything wrong with what we're doing. I think the selectmen are saying we would like the input directly from the road committee. In other words, anything we do, they would like to pass through the road committee, if I understand correctly.
So that's the way you see us as just the way we see ourselves, as like a steering committee of residents on both sides. We're trying to come up with a solution to pass along to those people who have the right to act on it, because we don't.
Well, I mean, the reason why we want to do it the way we're doing it is when it comes to the time where you guys, or we all figure out there's grants coming from here and there, and we gotta ante up as well as you, the road committee can make an advisement, you know, because they're elected through town meeting. And I feel that's probably the best way to do it. And, you know, so pretty much you're gonna be working with the Acton Road Committee on this.
And so it's okay. What we're doing is...
Because when we were sitting back, we can go back into our minutes, but our first meeting this, after the first of the year, Selectwoman, she came to us and listened. She went back, came back, she says, we know it needs to be addressed. We don't, more or less, we don't have the time, that's what we want you guys to do. Whatever you find, you come to us, we'll give you a yay or a nay, and we'll go from there. That's what the person had said to us that day.
Yeah.
How much of the road committee is in the room right now?
3 members, 4 members.
And how many
out of
are-
7.
Okay.
4 out of 7 in here.
So, I mean, and then, I mean, plain and simple, the state of Maine does not have money to do. There's a lot of promises coming from the State House, even with road work that, you know, that we're trying to do in Sanford and everything, and there's a lot of promises and everything. So maybe our thought is what we're gonna have to go is if we can get this on the historic registry, there must be some money or something, someone is, I would think. I mean, if we can show cause that, you know, we don't want to
It
fall
helps
in.
the awareness, and
Yeah.
it helps the preservation, certainly, and there may be other funds. It's L-CHIP, but right now they have no funds. There are other sources, but it's going to, may not be available immediately,
you know, and
But
then.
it's like, as you said, it's a long process, and our feeling is start with getting it on the National Register, because we can get the funding. We may be able to get the funding. We've been successful with 2 other grant applications to get that done.
Because if you, I would think if you got that on the register, they're gonna research a deed. And that's gonna,
They don't do that.
they won't do that? They won't do, that's something we'd have to do ourselves as a group.
They didn't
Grant
do,
would pick it up?
if it was necessary, yeah.
Well,
that's a
because
good-
right now, we're trying to figure out if
Yeah.
the grantee and grantor,
Yeah.
if the state of Maine
Says
has
they
spotting rights
don't.
on that, and that's their land, it's their responsibility. So that kind of gives us a little,
That's right.
Well, don't
But
forget,
that's
that
what
the
your
state of
deed
Maine
says.
didn't want it and offered it to the town of Acton more than one time, because they were not interested in the liability. And where the Lake Association has been maintained, that's a 15-acre piece. The Lake Association has been managing the boat launch for years. I think.
On Great East?
On Great East.
No,
Oh, well,
it's
yes.
the Department of Conservation, it's the state.
Oh, okay,
It's the State Department of
So the state of
Conservation.
New Hampshire is in,
No, the state of Maine,
oh.
Department of
Because it's Maine,
Conservation
it's
maintains that.
Maine-owned land.
Oh, okay.
And they're
I
ones that
thought
pay
the-
to have it all put in there and everything
Yeah.
else, so.
Because
And
it
there
used
was
to
a-
belong to New Hampshire, and
Yeah.
then that's the deed that he's referring to, that deeded it over to Maine.
We'll
Even
comment.
though it was in the state of Maine, and it clearly says so in that deed, if you read through, because I have read it, it says it's in the state of Maine, but it was owned by New Hampshire, and then it was deeded to Maine. That's the deed that he's referring to, I think.
Natural water resources, right?
Yes.
And water
Well,
course.
if we could go back just a little bit to where we started this, I think as far as the structure is concerned, I think it's the same thing. The selectmen of the town of Wakefield happened to take the Heritage Commission and say, okay, you guys run with this. And the selectmen of the town of Acton went to the road commission and said, okay, you guys run with it. So we're in the same position, we're equal things, and that should be no problem at all to move forward as a group like that.
We're a selectman appointed commission.
Well, the road committee, they advised the road commissioner, there's 2 road commissioners in the town of Acton.
Okay.
So, when we called the road committee, we came up with projects, and Cindy and Jack and a couple of, had started coming to see you guys there then, because we brought up light to us, and, so pretty much what would happen is they, we do the research, I present it to the selectmen, if there's gonna be funds and this and that, I submit it in my budget to the selectmen, then of course we go to the finance committees and everything else, but it's pretty much gonna be going through myself. Or, well, it'd be on myself because it's my own town.
So, but we're all, everybody's in agreement, we just function the way we have been,
Exactly.
reporting to
Yes.
you, and we're the entity in.
Cindy's the
Along with-
president, you're the president, correct?
I'm co-chairman.
Co-chairman. Co-chairman. And you'd be pretty much dealing with them most of the time.
Well, for a steering committee, Tom Gore has agreed to be on this. And also, I would like Tom to be our spokesman. Should have asked you earlier. You will need a spokesman.
All in favor? I am going to defer because I'm playing a couple of other roles here too in that respect. And I found through a sad experience that it's very, very bad to mix advisory or staff positions relative to administrative positions. You shouldn't mix the 2. Okay, it doesn't work very well. And I'll make that more clear later on, but I don't want to complicate the issues right now.
Okay.
All right?
So that's actually the next thing, other than AWOC, is we really, somehow I was made chairman, and we really need an Acton counterpart. It would be great to be co-chairman, and I would even defer to someone else in Wakefield if they wanted to take over the chairmanship. I can certainly handle a lot of legwork, but we should definitely have a spokesperson primary person from Acton.
I think somebody from the road committee has
I mean,
to do this.
Ted Krysak, one of the selectmen, has stated it to me a couple times, really, that, he really would like to see it go through the road committee, and, as we've said here a few times, so.
Okay.
The road committee reports to the selectmen,
I
and then they
believe
go
probably
from
what we
there.
ought to do is schedule another meeting with the full road committee.
Right.
And I believe I believe we're gonna probably end up having to put another person on the road committee anyways, because we have one that hasn't been showing up. So we get our fresh road committee together, and then we'll discuss it and elect someone to really communicate. Spokesperson, yes.
From the road committee who would coordinate that within the road committee and the advisory groups and whatever.
Okay.
I don't mind being a part of this. And I didn't mean Cindy to be, the steering committee that Pam has envisioned, I think, is a group from both sides of the border here working together. I don't have a problem being part of that, but I don't want to be the official spokesman for Acton leading this forward when the selectmen have been very specific about where they want the leadership to come from. Okay. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, you do. That makes sense.
Well, David, I hope that you'll still help us, because we could surely use the help.
Oh, yeah, I think Tom's very well.
So you'll do you'll have another committee meeting of
Yeah,
your full committee and come up with somebody.
Yeah, we ought to have, everybody at the meeting and go over it and decide who wants to be the spokesman. And I guess, we're all in agreement that we want to go ahead with this. But we just probably ought to have everybody from the road committee there when we do that. And we really appreciate, Tom, if you could be an advisory to us.
I'll come sit down and
All we'll do is we'll make sure that we email you and contact you when we have the meetings. And Dave, if you would, you've got some background on this, if you would participate, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like I said, that's why I'm here, so whatever I can be as a resource or not, Tell me when you want
Well,
it.
that's good. The next thing I had on the agenda, did we address everything we need to about the deed? That's maybe a subcommittee. Somebody needs to follow up with that. Maybe I could do that.
Is the New Hampshire deed very clean?
I have the deed I've seen is this one. I've not seen the New Hampshire one. This is the one that went from New Hampshire to Maine.
Probably all over the world.
Yeah. So, I'd like to have a name, come up with a name, a catchy, some sort of a name, so that when we're talking about, actually Linda put together a flyer.
The one you came up with last time.
Yeah. What was it? SOS?
The Indian name.
Oh, Newishwanek. I would love to use the Newishwanek some way in it. I don't remember what I said before.
That's a cop-out.
But Linda came up with a flyer that we wanted to, that just talks of just something to get the word out, and maybe to various the Lake Association. But we need to have a name, we need to have more direction, I think, as to what we want to accomplish. And we didn't, because of that.
This was just
an example.
A straw man.
But if you want it. But Newishwanek, what, how did I?
I have the notes from that meeting, and I didn't write it down, unfortunately.
You know how to spell it, right?
No, actually, I worked on spelling it. That's the only thing I've got out of there.
Save Newishwanek. That's what we said. Name for our committee, save Newishwanek.
That'll either get people to walk away or say, what?
I was gonna say, most people are gonna go,
Yeah, that's it.
But it brings back the preservation, the history, the background by using that.
I think if you add Canal, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want to
We
keep
want
it
Canal
simple
and
for
bridge.
asking for money. We don't want to have people have to think too much.
Yeah.
But I think it makes an excellent bumper sticker. I think it makes a great T-shirt. There you have the chance to talk and discuss it. But if you're going to a secretary in a congressman's office, and then you want her to pass this information out, it may be more difficult.
Well, you need to have a good cover letter.
At least a size 46 t-shirt to get it over.
Yeah. Any other ideas? Any thoughts about it?
How about the next meeting? Should we think about it?
We can,
Do you think we can?
we can. It should be something that's catchy.
So did you agree that we're gonna do the grant? And is that?
No, we don't know that yet. We have to find out if first the counterpart in Maine has to agree, because our funding comes from being a CLG community, and whatever the counterpart, you don't have that same counterpart in Maine. So Peter Michaud from the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources is talking with somebody in Maine who would be, and they're looking into whether they feel they can support it, and that's what I'm waiting to hear back. And then it's back to the towns, because he said unless we have the owner's agreement that they want to place it on the National Register, it's not going to happen. So that's what we're working on.
What does that CLG stand for?
Certified Local Government, and it was a designation that the Heritage Commission pursued several years ago. It actually took us about 5 years to get it. And it means that we're interested in preservation, and it allows other funding through the Department of the Interior to come to the town.
Yeah, Maine has a similar thing that it's
So that's
quite
what-
extensive to get it.
Yeah, it is.
You have to
It's a
have
process.
some historical
Yeah, it's a
credentials.
process.
You need to be into
And
it.
so whoever his counterpart is, he was contacting, and he did over a week ago, and he called me and said they were looking into it and he would get back to us. So I don't know who it is, but he said, Pam, let me do my job. Because I said, well, who do I get in touch with, and do I call Acton? Blah, blah. He says, Pam, let me do my job. So
What's
the
it?
whole,
So how are you?
so we need
Tight
to,
time.
there is a type, and he knows it because he's working in that office.
You know, once again, I don't know whether it's the guy that used to like to play with stones and work at the Masons for so long, or my conservation head. But I still would like to know what the bedrock is under that. It seems as though I just looked at the old map that was in Beth McCurry's book.
Yeah,
It seems like it's ledge.
It's in the
Because there
book.
was ledge on both sides.
Yeah.
It seems like it's ledge. And I was glad she put that. And looking at the way that's built, it's obviously built integral to the canal. They built the sidewalls before they built the arch. And the sidewalls was there to hold the water pressure, so chances are it's built like a barn foundation. It just keeps going outward, and there's enough there to displace the weight outward. The problem is long wheelbase vehicles that have a lot of weight. You know, that's the problem.
Well, that's an issue.
Reality.
Well,
That issue.
the first part's a short wheelbase, low weight.
Okay.
Long wheelbase, you know, you spread your weight, distribute it further. I mean, some of the
Okay, I'll buy that.
things go
I'll buy that. I'll buy
over. You
that.
take the tractor trailer, goes over it, the first part goes up, the other
All right.
don't go for quite a while, you know?
Yeah.
But the plow trucks are the worst.
The idea of an arch is
Our
the
plow-
force is out and the force is down, and if it's a narrow arch, which it is,
Yes.
it should be able to, there should be, like George is pointing out, a good engineering study, not only, but in order to do that study, somebody has to tell me whether it's on ledge and not just on mud. You know, chances are it is on ledge, it's ledge all there.
It was on-
Gradius is there because of the ledge.
There's ledge right there to the right of it. There's a little ditch, I don't know if you guys are one, there's ledge all the way down through there. That's why we're having a hard time
Well,
directing
the
the water.
state, before that bridge can even be repaired, there'll be an engineering study.
Yes.
I think we had, the first report I saw showed $50,000 for the engineering. That's an old estimate. It was in one of the earlier ones. So obviously that has to occur. I'd like to go back to what Teresa just asked, and that is, if it all comes together, do we want, we need to know if there's support for placing it on the National Register.
So you have to go before the Acton Select.
The people in Acton would have to get the selectmen's.
What we'll do is at the next meeting, we'll ask our selectmen to be at the meeting, and we'll ask them, you know, if that's something, which I believe they will, and we can get back to you on that.
All right, perfect. So
Cindy,
who's,
how do you keep minutes for your meetings?
We have a secretary.
I'm thinking that maybe that secretary should be asked to be at these meetings.
You really want to have your.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Yeah, we can,
I don't feel qualified, to be honest, to take accurate, I mean, I got sort of stuck with the
Well, we
job.
do have everything on film. We do have everything on
So
film.
if there's somebody who can do it properly, that would be great.
Okay.
I've seen that, so.
Yeah, Dick is not here. But
So
he does excellent notes.
when that decision is made, whoever is going to be the spokesperson should let me know.
And we'll know that day, the meeting.
And when is your meeting?
We haven't decided that yet, this is,
No, going to the selectmen about if they would be in favor.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna call a meeting. We haven't
Oh, I see.
scheduled the next meeting for our road committee. So when we schedule that meeting, we'll schedule the selectmen to meet with us. And that day, we'll ask their blessing and we'll get a spokesperson.
Okay. And what Peter from the state was telling me is, unless the state of Maine is agreeable, we can't go very far with it. But I'm wondering if that's because it's the canal and the bridge, because if the bridge is determined to be owned by the two towns, then if we just get the bridge on the National Register, I was gonna try to do an application, a nomination for the whole area.
Yeah, the whole structure is important.
Yeah.
It should all be done in one time.
Right.
If you can't save the bridge, if you can't do anything, or you can't.
So we need to get the state of Maine for, that's what he's working on. You might check with me before your meeting to find out, or I can call, somebody tell me who to call and I will be in touch with
You've been in
Peter.
touch, Cindy, you've been in contact with.
But I'd like someone I can send an email to, because I do this late at night sometimes, that I'm, because I'm
I think that's it.
Send an email to me, you have my email address.
You can email something.
Yeah, I think they get coming. I know where I'm going.
Oh,
All that much.
so let me use this
Yeah,
Jack.
and I'll get it to Cindy
Yeah.
and the rest of the members.
Yeah.
No, Acorn Jack.
Yeah.
you can get it right off the last email, I sent out.
It's right on, this is on the, no, minutes.
So I will let you know what I hear from Peter at
Mandy,
as
yeah.
soon as,
Does the state of Maine own the land on the entire length of the canal and same in New Hampshire?
I believe they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe they did.
So there's no private ownership in there?
Down.
Private ownership is on just, no, there is no private ownership.
Just when you go around the corner at the end.
And I have that page somewhere. I just have it here. Ian Paul, Ian
Yeah,
Hatch.
she owns
She-
some of it in there.
There's a strip like 50 feet and then it runs down and it goes all, if I find this diagram.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another descendant of Hiram Paul.
Yeah, she's my cousin.
I've got the map here. I have it. Here it is.
I think I've got a copy.
See this? These are, this yellow, light yellow is the part that Ian and Morris own. See, and it comes right up here. I'll pass it around. But then you can see the Maine and the New Hampshire. Did you have a thought about that, George?
No, I was just curious who had it. Does it do work on it to, help preserve the canal? You're gonna be on
We need
somebody's
the
land.
permission from, right.
Yeah.
Folks, I have to excuse myself, I don't know the meeting.
I was just gonna
This is
say,
the
I
Acton
do too,
School,
I gotta be in
so-
Rochester for 6, so like,
So thank you.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
we've accomplished something, we've sat down and met. We need to decide, you're going to get back to me, I will check. Basically, at this point, all we're working on is definitely clarify ownership, determine if if everybody's in agreement to get it to apply for a grant so that we can nominate it for the National Register. And that's what I'm looking for. And you're gonna think about a name.
I'm gonna throw out a possibility on the name while I've been sitting here fiddling Acton Wakefield Canal Project.
Good one.
That's it, yeah.
It's a lot of work, so, and first time you get it in the mail from the feds, it'll come across, not act, it'll come across
That's-
action.
Yeah.
Always.
Say nice, though. Yeah, well,
Thanks.
So, thank you, let's pass it around over there. So,
The one without the hole in it.
okay, so pass it down. So at this point then, that's another suggestion for a name. Let's try to get that together for our next meeting. And then we may talk about, does anybody have anything else that we talked about other committees, but maybe at this point, was thinking about subcommittees from this committee, things, people that could work on different avenues, but maybe right now we just need to let you get your formation together, and then meet again, and then we'll know if the historical part's behind us, so we're gonna work on another avenue.
I think one priority should be addressed right off is gonna be a short-term plan for the drainage problems.
Yeah.
Right.
It has to be done. The bridge is gonna be years down the road, no question about it. We can't just let things continue to deteriorate.
I came up with some ideas, I think I mentioned this earlier, that there's some pretty inexpensive ways to keep the water from going over the side of that bridge.
Yeah.
You know, of course, you know, hot top and all this and that, of course, we got guardrails and stuff, that's why it's good to have this meeting, because I wasn't sure what my responsibility was on that bridge. And we got guardrails, I mean, it's not safe. And
Wakefield did a little work on the guardrails last year sometime.
yeah, well, snowplow's been a doozy on that. So,
I think they would use guardrails on that too, because when I went by and saw that, they re-drilled holes and looked like they've been used someplace.
well, it's being secured to the concrete, they're bent and they gotta be re-secured. But, I mean, there's an inexpensive way, I mean, when I say inexpensive, you're talking, you know, probably around $10,000, so, but I mean, is something there that, you know, the town of Wakefield and Acton could split cost. It could be pretty inexpensive to, you know, like I said, put a bandage on it for a little while to, you know, stop the erosion.
How about just digging a dip in the road right before it comes up to the apron?
Well, I had a hot top company come up, and what we did is there's a dip, and when you come into Maine, that dip, and that's where it was eroded from. Well, what happens is during winter time, you know, snowbank in there, the water will sit in there, because the car after car after car pounds those potholes open. Well, when the ground beneath it gets exposed, then you get the filtration of your fines. So what my suggestion was to shim in hot top, take that dip out, and also run some hot top curbing at the beginning of one side of the bridge and on the other side, divert the water on both sides of the bridge before you even got to the bridge, because it drops right off on each side.
So you're not talking putting hot top within any of the voids in the stones?
No.
You're dealing with prior to the location of the stones?
On the top surface of that bridge, shimming that up to keep the water from settling where it's settling. That's the biggest problem you got with that whole thing.
Davey, doesn't the water come down the Camp Road down?
The water coming down the Camp Road, to solve that problem there.
That's what I was thinking.
Can you pitch that?
Well, the biggest problem is there's not much of a ditch on the, when you go in, there's no ditch because there's some ledge in there, which is, you know, can be,
That's what I was thinking.
you know, that can be solved.
The flow of water comes down the hill on Robinson Lane, and there's a parking area on the right side as you're going in.
Yeah.
So it comes in there, and it kind of runs down the edge of the road, there's no ditch line on the road, and there's no culvert underneath Robinson Lane where it comes to Canal Road.
I believe
Should be
that.
prevented from even getting across to Canal Road.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you turn into that dirt road, you know, swale the elevation, you know, we've done that before, where you drop the elevation so the road's not as high as the road you're coming onto. And, you know, divert that water back into a spot within the canal itself. You know, do a rock pool of some sort, you know, contain the fines from going to the lake and slow the water down. But really, the biggest thing is the way the road is set up right now, there's dips and everything else, and the water goes the easiest access, it's going right over the side of that.
Does the state of Maine maintain it up to the boat launch?
No, our association's done it from day one.
Even, okay,
Yeah,
right.
we've maintained the road from the Canal Road all the way through. The whole main section we've done.
Right.
What it really needs is a hot top apron into that road to stabilize that entrance of that road, because, you know, you could grade it up and get it so the water's diverted, and after a year or so of traffic pulling it out of it, it's gonna erode away and you're gonna have the same problem again. But, I mean, on the Acton side, when we got a 50-foot easement there, I mean, we could do that without having to go through a whole lot of, you know, getting easements and all that, but obviously, I think on my part of it, meeting with DEP and of course with you guys, Acton Wakefield, but we have to have a joint thing with New Hampshire, with Wakefield and say, will you spend some funds to put a bandage on this, give another, because it could be 3-4 years before money, well, what were you just saying, 7 years? I think someone just said 7 years before New Hampshire comes up with any funds, so maybe right now, the committee can look at, what can we do right now for some preventative maintenance, not a fix it, just some preventative maintenance, until we can get all our ducks in a row.
So Dave, are you saying that if Wakefield agrees to share the cost, you will do the work?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got money in my budget for general maintenance, and I do have some for special project and surfacing. And if it is, because that's coming right off, when you come out of Wakefield, coming into that's terrible. And we've been wanting to do something with it, but I wasn't gonna go and waste money and do up to the middle of a bridge or something like that. So, when I met with the last administrator back a couple years ago, we were talking about a split cost on doing some pavement and divert water. So that would be something that I would be.
Can you write up a budget that could be presented to the Wakefield Selectmen?
Yeah, I can. What I can do is probably best off to work with the.
Danny, would you?
Yeah, Danny.
Danny's done.
Yeah.
Oh, no, in another week.
He is.
First of April, he's retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whoever the road agent at that point in time could be over there, work with him, go over some numbers. Instead of me coming up with a number and then saying, hey, can you match me? And then say, no, can you do this?
So we would encourage the selectmen to get the new road agent to work with you and come up with a plan
Yes,
and an expense.
I think that's a well worthwhile endeavor.
Perfect.
Because
You do something on one side, not the other.
the-
And something needs to be done long before this
Right.
bridge is
Now,
gonna happen.
we were just over there doing ice water training there Sunday, and there was a ditch, you said that you.
You guys scared the heck out of me.
What?
I was on my dock and I heard all this screaming and I see all these bodies falling through the ice.
And,
That was terrifying.
but, like you were saying, I mean, there's such an erosion problem there, and the
Oh, yeah.
DEP's on that so hard, maybe there's a little bit of something in there that can be, might be some money in there somewhere.
One of the DEP, like, I know with the Puzzle Road, it's more or less matching funds. The town's gotta come up with money.
Well, we're doing,
But
we
then
actually
also,
got
That'd be your
DEP funding.
soil conservation.
Yeah, but then that's private road, so then we gotta decide, just because the town has a 50-foot right of way in there, you kind of, could be cutting some hairs there too.
The problem with the private road funding with DEP is that
There should
it
be a
has to be
50-foot
a
right-of-way
legal
down
road
through there from
association,
Canal Road.
statutory road
Mine was
association.
36.
Yours is
or
rock wall, rock
a-
wall.
or-
This, just a second, this is important. Repeat
Yeah,
that, please.
the DEP funds through the 319 program will only fund road projects on private roads if they have a statutory road association. So this year, we got funding to fix Eagle Road, Hawk Road, and Langley Shores. But, there's no money in there for Buzzell or,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is also, like you said, the state owns that boat launch.
well, that's
The
what
state,
I think.
the state's,
Yeah, the state
now
does.
Robinson Road, then if the state owns it, the state's right away. Robinson Road starts at, I would think, at the.
State's got a right of way down that road.
Yeah, it seems to me the
That's up
state
to
should
the
be
state.
responsible for it
Yes.
as far as
If they're charging people to put boats in there
right.
for registration and fishing license and everything else, there's probably another avenue to look at. And say, hey, we're willing to help, but we can't expect the poor people on Robinson Road, that association, to foot the bill and.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
problem
I
with
think there's a
grants
lot
is
of
that
little
you write
things.
the grant and then, wait a year until the money's available.
Is that road in off from Canal Road to the boat launch, is that a private road?
Yes. Yeah, Robinson is private.
Right, but, like you said, it seems like the state really should be responsible from Canal Road
That's
to
what
the
you ought to
edge of
find
the
out, so
pond.
what the associations would find out is, where does Robinson Road actually stop?
Who owns the road itself? Because the state might even own that road.
That's what I'm saying, and all that parking, because all this water, Sunday when we left there, the water was just running at both sides of their parking lot.
Yeah,
And, you can see it went right into your ditch where it was. And, so that might be an avenue there, get hold of the state at their level.
yeah, we have, well, on that deed, it doesn't really show.
It also says, also, all prior easements or rights of way of any nature granted to others are reserved from this transfer. So there is some abstracting that needs to be done here. Who would be, I mean, I can follow up in New Hampshire, who here would like to check with Maine?
How about the Conservation Committee? Would that be
We're
something
busy
you
enough
could-
as it is. I just raise it, I probably know as much about that as you need. I'm not qualified to title search.
Does the town have an attorney?
Yeah.
They can weigh in on that one, he's got some knockers. Because that's big.
Well, you'd have to go,
Which one of those?
this deed was done in 63.
I will say this in reference. A lot of these water right deeds, whether they're in the Saco or the Androscoggin or the Salmon Falls, are written in some very obscure places. And what you see for a deed is only a little piece of it, because I have seen volumes on Saco water rights and other water rights, and
Well,
you're not going to find them. You're going to go a long ways to find the title.
It's a piece of work.
You know. And
Well, in this area, it may not be so difficult.
I'm still concerned with your property and fire and access. You know, we still have to, whether it gets on the historic register or
Right.
not, there is a real issue of private property
Right.
protection.
Right.
And I mean,
Our
I
fire
want to
trucks
see it
are
in
not
history.
allowed, fire trucks are not exempt, they can't go across that bridge.
Well, they could
If
probably
there were
go
a
across
fire-
it, but a few years ago, when that was blocked off, they weren't gonna go across it, because when that was washed out, they had a block across it, and nobody was
Right,
going across it
right.
at that point. And they were having to go around 109 and New Bridge
Right.
Road and back into
Right.
that.
But that was something I talked to the chief there, and we're both agreeing, if something does go, you know, we'll do what we do. We keep ourselves spaced apart, and if so be it, you know, so be it. I mean, because there's such a legal aspect to it too. I mean,
Right.
if somebody's home, they know a home runs up there, and the insurance agent gets
I
involved,
wish.
it just trickles down so much, so.
But the only thing that covers them is, and I think it goes back to what George asked about the weight limit, now the state of New Hampshire, I don't know how Maine is, but if the state of New Hampshire owns the bridge and it's funded simply by the town that owns it, you only have to maintain a 3-ton limit on it. If the state has any funds invested, then you have to maintain a 6-ton limit, so I think that limits a lot of the liability, and that's probably why they came up with their 3-ton limit, because that was what the town needs to maintain on that bridge in order to keep their legally what they have to do, so that, you know, that's the minimum right there. But I think that covers them in a lot of legal ways.
You expressed, you had an interest in getting commercial equipment across the bridge, right? Did you also?
No, it's my own access.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is with what?
Yeah.
Just not a dump trucks or something
Just
like that?
pickup
You're operating, so what kind of axle load are you looking for? 32,000?
Well, I mean, my truck is registered to 50,000, 55,000 pounds, around 30 tons, you know, would be, I mean, you can't expect a road like that would be, you know, 80,000 pounds, but I mean, even that plastic culvert you got on New Bridge Road, with the way that's only got about probably 10 inches of structural fill over it, that's not even probably rated for 30 tons over there, so, you know, you're not gonna put that much weight across that 42
It's a
inch.
dumb question, but is there any dry hydrants within any vicinities?
No.
Is there, you know, there's no way to pump water quickly?
Right.
You see where I'm going?
Right.
You see where, I know, right from the street. You see what I'm saying?
We pumped water right from the stream before.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the point, you know, there's a,
When there was a fire.
Well, the town of Wakefield has millions of dollars worth of property out
Yeah,
there.
back in the
you know, that our taxpayers pay for that equipment that's just down the street in the public safety building.
I did that.
And, you know, being on the budget committee and in different positions of that, my thing is, I don't know why these people aren't screaming their heads off that if they want that equipment out there to put a fire out at their house, they're gonna get what you guys have in Acton instead of what
We
they
have a
have.
similar issue in Acton down at the land that's in Lebanon off Miller's Pond.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice houses down in there, and the road is not
Passable.
easily maneuvered.
Yeah.
But, you know, pumping capacity and water sources is one way to look at that.
If it's wet, we'll find it.
If it's not frozen, you can just probably throw a hose in and start pumping, but if we happen to have a winter and it's not, then you can't just.
But that's my point.
Right.
So at this
The
point,
access is a concern
at this point,
for water.
we are going, your meeting, we want our new road agent and you to get together and come up with a plan that can be presented, that selectmen will support.
Which I don't think we have yet.
Single axle rear end.
No.
When, Pam, who was you?
No.
We don't, I don't think he's been hired yet.
Well, let's throw this on this, because
Okay,
just not
let's-
us there, but also on Acton Ridge with the North End Road Commissioner. If this all falls together, it'd be nice for him and maybe one of your selectmen to come over and introduce him to him, so David knows who he's working with, Scott knows who he's
You
working with.
have one of our
also.
selectmen in this building.
Yep, yeah, I'll talk to Kenny, that's, but,
Kenny on the board?
I've just known Danny for years and all that stuff and everything, and, so we know, but it'd be nice whoever's gonna take them reins and see what's going on.
That'd be great
And
if
we
we talk
could-
to Kenny.
And we can kinda, if we're gonna meet, we can kinda roll some stuff in, and if David's got some concerns on that end, and I know Scott still does on Acton Ridge, we can take a few minutes and throw some ideas around and maybe kill two birds with one stone. and-
You know,
It just makes no sense not for these two communities.
no, it isn't. But
That's
if-
where this started.
If it does get on the National Registry, a use limit on that bridge is definitely going to have to be determined. You know.
Well, definitely, you don't want to go through.
It's just got to be a use limit. Somewhere, somebody's got to come up with a tonnage ratio.
Excuse me?
Somebody's got to come up with a limit, somebody, somebody.
There's a couple issues there which I wanted to address with the board. One of my big concerns is, I'll tell you what happened when GPSs came along. All of a sudden, everybody was leaving the state highways. Are we going to maintain town roads to state standards for that kind of load use? The other question is down on my end, and I don't know how it is over in Wakefield, but it's only a 36-foot right of way, only a 36-foot roadway. And I'll tell you, there have been times, and you've probably been on the plow truck, when you had a tough time getting one school bus through that road.
Well, that's why last year we started posting some roads, because that's the problem. You're finding, matter of fact, when you're talking about the plastic culvert over there on New Bridge Road.
Right.
I replaced that culvert in the middle of the night one night. It wasn't plastic. Oh, I did. You remember that?
I remember that.
You know this.
Because there's a story behind it. Because what was happening was Waste Management was using that, and I'm not gonna blame it on Waste Management. It was O'Connor trucking bill. But what was going on was they were using it as a shortcut from 16 across, and it was a smoother ride. And what happened was it broke the granite culverts, and they all caved away, and before you know it, we had a considerably huge hole in the road, and we changed it, and of course, after whenever it was changed again, for I don't know what reason, but yeah, that was the same, and I have another road right around the corner there that's got half granite, half steel.
Coming out of the pond right there, I mean, that's another route, and that was when they closed that bridge. I mean, your loads were coming in by there, and that was what the town of Wakefield said, this is how you're gonna have to come in, you're gonna have to come across New Bridge Road, and that was that plastic pipe, and I said, that's not gonna carry any weight. Well, you had to go up around Young's Ridge Road, and you had the granite slabs, and I went and looked at that, and you could see down through, in a couple of places, you could see down through the hot top.
You can see through but that's way off there.
Right.
The culvert you're talking about will take your weight.
Well, according to Hancor, that pipe would have to be buried under 18 inches of structural fill
Yeah, I
and
think
6
more-
inches of hot top in order to carry 40 tons, so.
Yeah.
And I imagine.
Especially with your name on the side of the road, you going over, your insurance company will want that.
Well, that's the thing, when you're following through that stuff and your premiums are going up, I mean, you gotta kind of pay attention to what you're driving over, you can't just go across this because someone says, oh, we don't close that road, go this road. You gotta put a little common sense in it, and, we're running our fire apparatus over that ostensibly
Yes,
because it's
$15.
safe, but I mean, I think that just lends a little bit more urgency, which I tried to tell the selectmen in 2005, was it lends a little more urgency to get this bridge to, maybe 30-ton limit that is functional, and get the funding for it,
It's a
I
secret, though.
myself,
somewhat.
I believe,
It's-
honestly, believe that bridge.
Don't put it in your TV, it's insane.
Right, yeah, right.
I had somebody put it in
Fire
a
truck,
DVD
for fire truck
player.
use.
Thank you.
I don't believe we can go
Plan
like
for
this.
It probably wouldn't be, but I'll tell you, if you went to a planning board and you were gonna put in a development and you were putting in houses like we have out there on the lake with the property values we have out there that probably start at $500,000 to $750,000, and you were putting those in there, and you came to them with this plan and you said, look, we got this stone arch bridge that's 22 feet wide and it's gonna support 3 tons, and that's what we're gonna have going into that development. I guarantee you that you wouldn't get that past the planning board. So.
No, I don't, I believe that the 3-ton limit is obviously, you know, you put that on it, that's covered your tail.
Right.
That's what that weight.
That's what that's.
I really believe that, we've been putting plow trucks over it, we have to plow it, and wait till it comes over, we'll wheel it.
Oh, yeah, I know
And Scott, which plows on that end of town, I take care of that end of town summertime, he has to go over it to turn around. So, I mean, a fire truck is no doubt safe to go over that bridge, but the limit that was put there, obviously, because an engineer's gonna say, hey, the less weight, the better, it's gonna last forever, right, Tom?
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, but to have one actually stamp and say, yeah, I believe it, if we posted that at 15 ton, it probably, nobody will sign their name to it, that's the problem.
Right.
Well, you won't be able to post that bridge until you did pull on the road, see what your road faces.
Yes, you need to have a study.
Yeah, you do a study on that, then you'll do that. We had that bridge, that canal up there is the same thing we had on Washington Street when Wyman and Simpson did that. We shotgun-eyed in that, and then they turned around and had the deck plate made in Canada, brought it over, pulled cables through it, and we ran into it when we were replacing the 12-inch water main stuff there. The town didn't know what it was, and they ended up opening it up, it was the same thing. And that's, I think that's 22 feet.
You know, guys, this is awesome, and it's great to be talking. It's great, really, the communication, but we probably, unless there's something else that you feel we need to come to an agreement on, or get on the agenda for next time. Okay, let's schedule another, do we schedule another meeting now?
We've got, I just came up with 2 short-term things that we're working on. One is we're working on the bridge to sort of stop the bleeding over the course of the summer, and you and the new road agent are going to get together and come up with some sort of a budget, kind of a plan to work on that thing, which is a project that hopefully will be able to take place over the course of the next few months. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to start going forward on discovering what we've got to do to get on the National Register. And we've got that project started through the New Hampshire side, who's meeting with the Maine side, and that will go forward, and we should be able to get some kind of action on that over the course of this year. I think those are the 2 things that we've talked about that make sense for this year. After that, then we've got, what are we going to do long-term to secure the bridge so it can carry more weight? What are we going to do long-term with the canal to preserve it so all the stones don't fall in and we lose it?
And I can add one thing to it, and that was title.
That's for National Register. I inferred that with National Register. I was assuming that you couldn't go to the National Register without proper title.
Yeah, and I told Peter that it was, you know, I'm the one that said Acton and Wakefield and New Hampshire and Maine, so.
And I had one fun story to
Yes,
end with. The Salmon Falls Collaborative was formed a couple of years ago, which just brings together everybody who's working in the Salmon Falls, from looking at it from a drinking water perspective, really, because the Salmon Falls River provides all the drinking water for Somersworth and Berwick. So all these agencies got together and shared our stories, and a lot of the work that AWA did was put in a lot of their press stuff. And last fall, it was nominated for a U.S. Water Prize, and we won it. So a group of us are going to Washington on April 23rd to accept this prize, and yesterday they came up to do some filming for a video that's being done about it. And we did it on the canal, and talking about how this collaboration between the uplands and the downstream started back in 1850, and so we'll see. I blew my lines a lot, so we'll see what they do.
Oh, that's all right. And to play right along with that, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources has nominated the Wakefield Heritage Commission for the New Hampshire 2012 Preservation Alliance Award, which is for preservation. So we will get a lot, I mean, just being nominated, we're going to get a lot of press in in New Hampshire, and it isn't for the canal per se, it's this project and our railroad restoration, our most current projects. That's just a nomination, and if we get the award, there'll be a lot of additional positive acclamation for the type of work we've done. So, you know, it's getting the word out there and trying to get something accomplished.
Well, all these things help bring in the money, isn't it?
They do. One more accolade that says, you know what, they follow through with what they say they're going to do, and so give them the money. It's part of the granting, positive granting process. So, our next meeting?
Well, I guess we've got to schedule our road committee.
Yeah.
So we'll do the email thing. Linda has, did I give you all the new emails? The new, yes. And I noted some of their interests or their backgrounds
Yep. I think I got
as they were introduced. So we'll
Dave
come up with...
Langley, do you have Wendy L65, that's
Yep.
you? Okay. Dave Cody, I got Jack, I think everybody else got.
Linda, you send those up CC instead of DCC? I noticed that you do. Instead of, you know.
On ones like this, I do it just CC, because I feel like everybody should have access to everybody. When I do my big mass mailing, I always do mine.
Working for the government, I could do that, you know.
Yeah, well, no, I think giving, you know, people like this where,
We should
and
all...
people like this where there's conversations
Yeah, I
that
think we need to ask whether, you know, I understand the open dialogue, but sometimes, you know, it's just.
Does anyone have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem, I just
Okay.
appear like, you know.
Yeah, I know, but, you know, it is just another way to protect the computer a little more, to have it close. Yeah, you can send me separate.
Would you like that? Okay.
you want, it's just,
Well, if you're, I don't know, what do you use for program? Because if BCC is just as easy to click as CC.
it is, it's remembering to do it. isn't it?
Yeah, okay, yeah, well, we all have that problem.
I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, you know, on this one, I think it would not further the use of the group if everything just came from me to me, because then you guys wouldn't be able to access each other.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I certainly understand that, any mass
Just
mailings I do.
understand those things. I have a number of different groups that are on my machine. I just, you know, it's so easy for them to get crossed over.
You need to have fewer groups.
When we have a reason to meet, we'll meet again.